Bought an isolated ranch in the middle of nowhere. No neighbors for miles. 3 days later, received a $200,000 bill from a homeowners association. Pool fees. No pool exists. Security charges. No security anywhere. County records showed nothing. But the documents looked completely official. The judge's reaction shocked everyone. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. My name is Robert Miller, and I spent 35 years working as a truck driver across America. Every mile I drove, every highway I crossed, I was saving money for one simple dream: to own a piece of land where I could live in peace. No noise, no traffic, no neighbors complaining about my dog barking. Just me, the open sky, and silence. In March 2024, I finally found it. A beautiful 25-acre ranch in rural Texas, about 40 miles from the nearest town. The land was perfect. Flat ground with some trees, a small creek running through the back, and absolutely no houses nearby. The real estate agent told me it was completely isolated, which was exactly what I wanted. I paid $180,000 for the property. It took almost all my savings, but I was happy. This was my retirement plan. I was 58 years old, tired from years on the road, and ready to start a simple, quiet life. The closing went smoothly. The title company checked everything. No liens, no problems, no restrictions. The property was mine, free and clear. I moved in 2 weeks later with my old pickup truck, my dog Max, and enough supplies to start building my dream home. For the first week, everything was perfect. I woke up to bird songs, spent my days clearing land and planning where to build, and slept under stars so bright they looked fake. This was what I had worked for my entire life. Then the letter arrived. It was a thick envelope, the kind that looks important and official. The return address said, Pinewood Community Association, with a professional logo. I didn't think much about it at first. Maybe it was a welcome letter from some local group. I was wrong. Inside was a 15-page document with legal language so thick I could barely understand it. But the main message was crystal clear: I owed $200,000 in back fees to the Pinewood Community Association. I read it 3 times, thinking I must be missing something. The letter listed charges for pool maintenance fees, $45,000 community security patrol, $38,000 landscaping and common area maintenance, $52,000 road repairs and paving, $41,000 legal and administrative fees, $24,000. The total came to exactly $200,000. The letter said I had 30 days to pay in full, or they would start foreclosure proceedings on my property. I looked out my window at the empty land around me. There was no pool. There was no security patrol. There were no common areas. The only road was a dirt path I had driven on to reach my property. And most importantly, there were no other houses anywhere near me. I called the phone number on the letter. A woman answered with a professional voice. Pinewood Community Association, this is Jennifer speaking. How may I help you? Yes, hello, I said, trying to stay calm. I just received a letter saying I owe $200,000 in HOA fees. But I don't live in any community. I bought an isolated ranch. May I have your name and property address, please? I gave her my information. I heard typing on a keyboard. Yes, Mr. Miller, she said in that same professional tone. Your property is located within the Pinewood community boundaries. The previous owner was responsible for 5 years of unpaid assessments, which transferred to you when you purchased the property. But there's no community here, I said, my voice rising. I'm the only house for miles. The community exists legally, Mr. Miller, even if development hasn't been completed yet. All properties within the registered boundaries are subject to assessment fees. This information should have been disclosed during your purchase. Nothing was disclosed, I said. The title company found nothing. I'm sorry you feel that way, Mr. Miller. However, the legal obligation remains. You have 30 days from the letter date to submit payment. After that, we're required by Texas law to begin foreclosure proceedings. She hung up before I could say anything else. I sat at my small kitchen table, staring at the letter. My hands were shaking. I had just spent almost everything I owned to buy this land. I had maybe $15,000 left in my bank account. There was no way I could pay $200,000. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about losing everything. Losing my land, my dream, my future. All because of fees I didn't understand and couldn't afford. 3 days later, a silver car pulled up to my property. A woman in her 40s stepped out, wearing an expensive business suit and carrying a leather briefcase. She looked like she belonged in a Dallas corporate office, not on my dusty ranch. Mr. Miller, she said, extending her hand. I'm Jennifer Stevens, president of the Pinewood Community Association. May I come in to discuss your account? I let her in, mainly because I wanted answers. She sat at my kitchen table and opened her briefcase with practiced efficiency. Inside were dozens of official-looking documents, all organized in colored folders. I understand this is confusing, she began, her voice smooth and confident. Let me explain how community associations work in Texas. She spread documents across my table. Each one looked more official than the last. There were papers with county seals, legal stamps, and signatures that looked authentic. She showed me Articles of Incorporation for Pinewood Community Association, filed in 2018 bylaws that referenced specific Texas property codessa maps showing community boundaries, that included my property financial statements showing expenses from 2018 to 2024 county stamped permits for community improvements, environmental compliance certificates, meeting minutes from board meetings I had never attended. You see, Jennifer said, pointing to the map, your property falls within these registered boundaries. When the community was formed in 2018, all properties within these boundaries became subject to association fees, whether they were developed or not. But there are no other houses, I protested. Community development happens in phases, she explained patiently. We've already completed Phase 1, which included road improvements, environmental studies, and infrastructure planning. These are real expenses that benefit all property owners, including you. She showed me invoices from construction companies, environmental consultants, and legal firms. Every document had logos, dates, invoice numbers, and professional formatting. It all looked legitimate. The pool you mentioned in your fees, I said, trying to find something wrong. Where is this pool? The pool construction was part of the Phase 2 planning, Jennifer replied smoothly. The fees you're seeing are for the planning, permits, and site preparation that has already been completed. The actual construction is scheduled for next year. She had an answer for everything. Every question I asked, she responded with documents, legal references, and explanations that sounded reasonable. I don't have $200,000, I finally admitted. I understand, Jennifer said, her tone sympathetic. Many property owners are surprised by these obligations. However, the law is clear. These are legitimate debts that run with the land. They transferred to you when you bought the property. She pulled out another document, this one titled, Payment Plan Options. We can offer you a 12-month payment plan at 8% interest, she said. That would be approximately $18,500 per month. Or, if you prefer, we can discuss a lump sum settlement for $175,000 if paid within 15 days. Neither option was possible for me. I told her I needed time to get legal advice. Of course, Jennifer said, standing up and closing her briefcase. You have 27 days remaining before we're required to begin foreclosure proceedings. I hope we can resolve this amicably. After she left, I sat surrounded by the documents she had given me. Everything looked real. The seals looked authentic. The legal language was complex but consistent. The invoices appeared genuine. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I really did owe this money. I called my cousin Marcus, who works as a paralegal in Houston. I explained the whole situation and sent him photos of all the documents. He called me back 2 hours later. "Rob," he said, his voice serious. "Something doesn't feel right about this. The documents look professional, but there are some red flags." "Like what?" "First, if there was really an HOA on your property, it should have shown up in the title search. Second, HOAs can't just charge you for improvements that were made before you bought the property unless those fees were already recorded as liens. Third, the amount is suspiciously round. $200,000 exactly. Real expenses are never that neat." His words gave me the first hope I'd felt in days. "What should I do?" I asked. "Don't pay anything yet," Marcus said firmly. "I'm going to do some research. In the meantime, go to the county clerk's office and ask them to search for any recorded HOA documents related to your property." The next morning, I drove to the county courthouse. The clerk, a friendly older woman named Betty, listened to my story. "Let me search our database," she said, typing into her computer. After 5 minutes, she frowned. "That's strange," she said. "I can see that a Pinewood Community Association was registered as a corporation in 2018. But I'm not finding any recorded CCRs." "CCRs?" I asked. "Covenants, conditions, and restrictions," she explained. "Those are the documents that actually bind property owners to HOA rules and fees. Without recorded CCRs, an HOA can't legally enforce fees on property owners. So they can't charge me." "Not without proper recorded restrictions on your deed," Betty said. "Let me check your specific property." She searched again, this time looking at my property records directly. "Your deed is clean," she confirmed. "No restrictions, no easements related to any HOA. According to our records, your property has never been subject to any community association." I felt a weight lift off my chest. But Betty looked concerned. "Mr. Miller," she said quietly, "this sounds like a scam. You need to report this to the sheriff's department." I went directly to the sheriff's office and filed a report. The deputy who took my statement was a young man named Officer Hayes. He listened carefully and took notes. "This is the third report we've received about this Pinewood Community Association," he said. "We're starting to think it's an organized fraud operation." "Third report?" I said, surprised. "Yes, sir. 2 other property owners in this county received similar letters. One of them actually paid $50,000 before realizing it was a scam. Officer Hayes told me he would forward my case to the fraud division and that a detective would contact me. He also advised me not to communicate with Jennifer Stevens anymore. Document everything, he said. Keep all letters, save all voicemails, and if she contacts you again, try to record the conversation if Texas law allows it. 2 days later, Detective Sarah Martinez called me. She was with the Texas Rangers Financial Crimes Unit. "Mr. Miller, we've been investigating Jennifer Stevens for 6 months, she said. Her real name is Jennifer Walsh, and she's wanted in 3 states for similar HOA scams. She explained how the scam worked. Jennifer would research rural properties that recently sold. She would create fake HOA documents that looked professional. She would target new property owners who didn't know the area well. She would pressure them with legal threats and tight deadlines. She would collect partial or full payments before victims realized it was fraud. She would disappear and set up a new fake HOA in a different area. She's stolen over $800,000 from property owners across Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico, Detective Martinez said. But she's very careful. She uses real legal terminology, creates authentic-looking documents, and moves quickly before law enforcement can catch her. So what do I do? I asked. Don't pay anything, the detective said. We're building a case against her, but we need more evidence. Would you be willing to cooperate with us? Absolutely, I said without hesitation. Detective Martinez explained the plan. They wanted me to contact Jennifer and tell her I was willing to make a partial payment. They would set up surveillance and try to catch her in the act of accepting fraudulent payment. She'll probably want to meet in person to pick up a check, the detective explained. That's when we'll arrest her. I was nervous but determined. These scammers had tried to steal everything from me. I wanted them caught. I called the Pinewood Community Association number. Jennifer answered. Mr. Miller, she said, sounding pleased. Have you made a decision about your payment? Yes, I said, trying to sound defeated. I can't pay the full amount, but I can give you $25,000 as a good faith payment. I'll need to get a loan for the rest. There was a pause. I could almost hear her thinking. That's a good start, Mr. Miller, she said. A partial payment will stop the foreclosure proceedings temporarily. Can you have the money ready by Friday? Yes, I said. But I want a receipt and proper documentation that this payment is being applied to my account. Of course, she said smoothly. I'll bring all the paperwork when I come to collect the check. Shall we say 2 p.m. on Friday? That works, I said. After I hung up, I called Detective Martinez and told her everything. Perfect, she said. We'll have officers positioned around your property. When she arrives and accepts the check, we'll move in. Friday arrived with clear blue skies. I spent the morning pretending to do normal ranch work, but my stomach was in knots. Detective Martinez had assured me everything would be fine, but I couldn't shake my nervousness. At 1:45 p.m., I saw 3 vehicles park along the road about half a mile from my property. I knew those were undercover officers, but they were far enough away that Jennifer wouldn't notice them. At exactly 2 p.m., the silver car pulled up. Jennifer stepped out, again wearing her business suit and carrying her briefcase. She looked confident and professional. Good afternoon, Mr. Miller, she said with a smile. I'm glad you decided to work with us on this matter. Let's just get this done, I said, trying to sound tired and defeated. We went inside. She opened her briefcase and pulled out more documents. There was a partial payment agreement that looked official, with spaces for signatures and dates. This document confirms that you're paying $25,000 as the first installment toward your total obligation of $200,000, she explained. By signing this, you acknowledge the debt and agree to pay the remaining $175,000 within 90 days. She handed me a pen. Do you have the check? She asked. I pulled out an envelope. Inside was a fake check that Detective Martinez had provided. It looked real but would never clear any bank. Jennifer took the envelope and examined the check carefully. She smiled. Perfect, she said. Now, if you'll just sign here. The front door burst open. Police. Don't move. 4 officers rushed in, guns drawn. Jennifer's face went white. She dropped the check and tried to grab her briefcase, but an officer was already behind her. Jennifer Walsh, you're under arrest for fraud, theft by deception, and organized criminal activity, Detective Martinez said, walking in behind the officers. They handcuffed Jennifer and read her rights. She didn't say a word, just stared at the floor with a blank expression. Detective Martinez picked up the briefcase and the documents on my table. This is all evidence now, she said to me. We'll need you to come to the station to give a formal statement. As they led Jennifer out to a police car, I felt relief wash over me. It was really over. Over the next 2 weeks, the investigation grew much larger than anyone expected. When police searched Jennifer's apartment, they found evidence of at least 40 different victims across 5 states. She had filing cabinets full of fake HOA documents for fake communities with names like Desert Ridge Association, Pinewood Community, Mountain View HOA, and Riverside Property Owners. She had collected over $1.2 million in fraudulent fees from property owners who believed they owed money to legitimate organizations. Detective Martinez called to update me on the case. "We've identified 43 victims so far," she said. "Most of them paid at least some money before realizing it was a scam. One elderly couple in Oklahoma paid $85,000 before their son discovered what was happening." "That's terrible," I said. "It gets worse," the detective continued. "Jennifer wasn't working alone. We've arrested 2 other people who were part of the operation. One was creating the fake documents, and another was posing as a lawyer to threaten victims who questioned the fees. The case was now being handled by the FBI because it crossed state lines. I was told I would need to testify at a federal trial. 6 months later, I found myself sitting in a federal courthouse in Dallas. The courtroom was full of other victims, all of us waiting to testify against Jennifer Walsh and her associates. Jennifer sat at the defense table wearing an orange jumpsuit. Her expensive business suit was gone. Her confident expression was gone. She looked small and tired. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Ms. Chen, explained the case to the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence will show that the defendant ran a sophisticated fraud operation that stole over $1.2 million from honest, hardworking property owners. She created fake homeowners associations, produced fraudulent documents, and used legal threats to intimidate victims into paying fees that didn't exist." Over 3 days, victim after victim took the stand and told their stories. An elderly veteran who lost his life savings. A young family who had to sell their property to pay the fake fees. A widow who was threatened with foreclosure. When it was my turn, I explained everything that had happened. The prosecutor showed the jury the fake documents Jennifer had given me, pointing out the forged seals and incorrect legal references. "Mr. Miller," Ms. Chen asked me, "when you received these documents, did they look authentic to you?" "Yes, ma'am," I said honestly. "I'm not a lawyer. I'm a truck driver. To me, those papers looked as real as any government document I'd ever seen." "And if Detective Martinez hadn't contacted you, would you have paid the money?" I thought about it carefully. "Probably," I admitted. I was terrified of losing my land. If they had convinced me it was legal, I might have found a way to pay. The defense attorney tried to argue that Jennifer believed the fees were legitimate and that it was all a misunderstanding. But the evidence was overwhelming. The FBI had found Jennifer's personal notes detailing how to target victims, how to create convincing fake documents, and how much money she had stolen. After 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. On the count of wire fraud, guilty. On the count of mail fraud, guilty. On the count of conspiracy to commit fraud, guilty. The judge, a stern older man named Judge Harrison, listened to the verdict and then turned to Jennifer. "Ms. Walsh, do you have anything to say before sentencing?" Jennifer stood up. Her lawyer tried to stop her, but she pushed his hand away. "Your Honor," she said, her voice shaking, "these people are lying. The Pinewood Community Association is real. I have all the documents. They just don't want to pay what they owe." The courtroom went silent. Even her own lawyer looked shocked. "Ms. Walsh," Judge Harrison said slowly, "are you saying that you still believe these HOAs are real?" "Yes, Your Honor," she said, her voice getting stronger. "I filed everything properly. I followed all the rules. These property owners signed agreements. They knew what they were buying." The judge stared at her for a long moment. Then something unexpected happened. He started laughing. Not a small chuckle, but genuine, surprised laughter. The judge covered his mouth with his hand, but his shoulders were shaking. "I'm sorry," Judge Harrison said, trying to compose himself. "In 30 years on this bench, I have never heard a defendant maintain such an absurd defense after being convicted by a jury." He looked at Jennifer seriously. "Ms. Walsh, you created fake homeowners associations for communities that don't exist. You forged government documents. You threatened innocent people with losing their homes. And now, even after being found guilty by a jury of your peers, you're still trying to claim it was all legitimate? It was legitimate, Jennifer insisted, her voice rising. I did everything legally. Bailiff, the judge interrupted, please remove the defendant. I need a moment. As they took Jennifer out of the courtroom, Judge Harrison looked at all of us victims sitting in the gallery. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, I apologize that you had to experience this fraud. The court will ensure you receive restitution from the defendant's seized assets. He shook his head, still seeming amused and disturbed at the same time. 30 years, he muttered to himself. I've seen a lot, but this is something else. 2 weeks later, we returned for sentencing. This time, Jennifer was quiet. Her lawyer had clearly told her to stop talking. Judge Harrison reviewed the case details one more time. Ms. Walsh, you stole $1.2 million from 43 victims across 5 states. You created an elaborate criminal enterprise that caused financial and emotional harm to dozens of families. Some of your victims lost their life savings. Some lost their homes. All of them lost their peace of mind. He paused, looking at the papers in front of him. The federal sentencing guidelines recommend 10 to 15 years in prison. However, given the scope of your crimes, the number of victims, and your complete lack of remorse, as demonstrated during the trial, I am sentencing you to 18 years in federal prison. There were gasps in the courtroom. Jennifer's face went pale. Additionally, the judge continued, you will pay full restitution to all victims, plus penalties and interest. Your assets, including bank accounts, property, and vehicles, will be seized and distributed to your victims. He looked directly at Jennifer. Ms. Walsh, you preyed on people's trust in the legal system. You used official-looking documents and legal threats to steal from honest citizens. This court will not tolerate such behavior. He banged his gavel. 18 years. This court is adjourned. As they led Jennifer away in handcuffs, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Justice had been served. In the months after the trial, I received $22,000 from the seized assets. It wasn't the full $25,000 they had tried to steal from me, since I never actually paid anything, but it was compensation for my time, stress, and legal expenses. More importantly, my property title was completely cleared. The county officially recorded that there was no HOA, no liens, and no restrictions on my land. I finally felt safe on my own ranch. Detective Martinez called me one last time to give me a final update. Mr. Miller, I wanted you to know that your cooperation helped us close 43 cases across 5 states. Because you agreed to help us catch Jennifer, we were able to stop her before she stole from even more people. I'm glad I could help, I said. There's one more thing, the detective added. The FBI is creating a training program for property owners about HOA scams. They want to use your case as an example. Would you be willing to let them interview you? Absolutely, I said. If my experience can help other people avoid this scam, I'm happy to share it. Over the next year, I worked with the FBI and local law enforcement to create educational materials about real estate fraud. We made videos, wrote guides, and held seminars for property owners. The main warning signs we taught people to watch for were: surprise fees after purchase. Legitimate HOAs are always disclosed before you buy. Property pressure tactics. Real HOAs give reasonable time to pay and don't threaten immediate foreclosure. No public records. All real HOAs must be recorded with the county round numbers. Real expenses are never exactly $200,000 or $100,000. Too professional. If documents look too perfect, they might be fake. Isolation. Scammers target people in rural areas who are far from legal help. Today, I'm sitting on my porch watching the sunset over my 25 acres of land. My dog Max is sleeping at my feet. There's a gentle breeze carrying the smell of grass and wildflowers. I finally have the peace I worked 35 years to achieve. The ordeal with Jennifer Walsh taught me important lessons. First, trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it usually is. When I first got that letter demanding $200,000, every fiber of my being said it was wrong. I should have trusted that feeling immediately. Second, verify everything. Just because a document looks official doesn't mean it is. Anyone can buy professional-looking paper and stamps online. Always check with actual government offices. Third, don't let fear make you act quickly. Scammers use tight deadlines and threats to make you panic and pay without thinking. Real legal matters give you reasonable time to respond and get advice. Fourth, ask for help. I'm lucky I had a cousin who knows legal stuff and that I reported it to the sheriff quickly. Many victims don't seek help until it's too late because they're embarrassed or scared. Finally, the system works if you use it. Police, courts, and laws exist to protect honest people. When I reported the scam, law enforcement took it seriously and built a case. Justice took time, but it happened. One of the unexpected results of my experience is that I've become a local advocate for fraud prevention. The county sheriff's office sometimes calls me when they get reports of possible HOA scams. Just last month, a woman named Susan called me. She had received a letter from something called the Valley Springs Community Association, demanding $150,000 in back fees. Mr. Miller, she said, her voice shaking, I found your name in a newspaper article about HOA scams. I think this might be happening to me. I asked her to send me photos of the documents. As soon as I saw them, I recognized the same patterns Jennifer Walsh had used. Professional-looking letterhead, complex legal language, fees for non-existent amenities, tight 30-day deadline, threats of foreclosure. Susan, I told her, don't pay anything. This is a scam. Here's what you need to do. I walked her through the same steps I had taken: check with the county clerk, file a police report, and contact a lawyer if needed. 2 weeks later, Susan called me back. You were right, she said, relief obvious in her voice. The county has no record of any HOA on my property. I filed a report with the sheriff, and they're investigating. Thank you so much for helping me. That's what I'm here for, I said. Nobody should have to go through what I went through. According to the FBI, HOA scams are becoming more common across America. Scammers target rural property owners because rural properties are often isolated, making verification harder. New property owners don't know the area well. There's often no nearby lawyer or legal help. People in rural areas tend to trust official-looking documents. Small-town newspapers rarely cover these crimes. The FBI estimates that fake HOA scams cost property owners over $50 million per year nationwide. That's money stolen from hard-working people who just want to own their own land. But there's good news too. Law enforcement is getting better at catching these criminals. States are passing new laws that require HOAs to register publicly and provide proof of legitimacy. Title companies are being more careful about checking for HOA restrictions before closing sales. Most importantly, people are becoming more aware. The more we talk about these scams, the harder it is for criminals to operate. If you're reading this because you're thinking about buying rural property, here's my advice. Before you buy, research the property thoroughly with the county clerk. Ask specifically if there are any HOA restrictions recorded on the deed. Get everything in writing during the sale. Don't believe the seller or agent alone. Verify independently. Consider hiring a real estate attorney for the closing. After you buy, if you receive any letters demanding fees, verify them immediately. Check county records before paying anything. Don't be intimidated by official-looking documents. Report suspicious demands to local law enforcement. Trust your gut feeling. If you're being scammed, don't pay anything until you verify the debt is real. File a police report immediately. Contact your county district attorney's office. Reach out to other property owners in your area. Document everything. Save all letters, emails, and phone calls. Remember, a real HOA will have public records. Real fees will be disclosed before purchase. Real organizations don't use threats and pressure tactics. It's now been 3 years since I bought my ranch and faced the Jennifer Walsh scam. Life is good. I built a small house on my property, nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a porch where I can watch the sunsets. I have chickens, a vegetable garden, and more peace than I ever thought possible. The legal nightmare feels like a distant memory now, though I still get occasional calls from people who've read about my case and need advice. Last week, Detective Martinez called with news. "Mr. Miller, I thought you'd want to know that Jennifer Walsh was denied early release. She'll serve her full 18-year sentence." "Good," I said. "How many years has she served so far?" 3 years, the detective replied. "She has 15 more to go." There's a certain satisfaction in knowing that justice is being served. Jennifer Walsh stole from dozens of people and showed no remorse. She deserves every year of that sentence. But more than revenge, I feel gratitude. Gratitude that I didn't pay her, gratitude that law enforcement caught her, gratitude that I can help others avoid the same trap. My story started with a simple dream: own land, live in peace, and enjoy the retirement I earned through 35 years of hard work. Criminals tried to steal that dream with fake documents and legal threats. They almost succeeded. But the truth prevailed. The legal system worked. Justice was served. Today, when I sit on my porch and look at my 25 acres of land, I don't just see property. I see freedom. I see security. I see proof that honest people can stand up to sophisticated criminals and win. The judge laughed at Jennifer Walsh in that courtroom, not because the situation was funny, but because her delusion was so complete, her fraud so obvious, and her defense so absurd that laughter was the only human response. That laughter symbolized something important. Criminals like Jennifer Walsh may seem powerful and professional, but underneath the fancy documents and legal threats, they're just con artists. And when exposed to the light of truth, their schemes fall apart. If you take anything from my story, take this: don't be afraid to question authority. Don't be intimidated by official-looking papers. And most importantly, don't let fear stop you from seeking the truth. My ranch is real. My peace is real. My American dream survived. And if you're facing a similar situation right now, know this: you can survive too. The truth is on your side. Help is available. Justice is possible. Trust yourself. Verify everything. Report suspicious activity. And never, ever let scammers steal your dream. If you believe you're a victim of an HOA scam, contact your local FBI field office or call the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3. You can also reach out to your state attorney general's office. Help is available, and you don't have to face this alone. Remember, real HOAs are public record. Fake ones disappear when exposed to sunlight. Stay safe, trust your instincts, and enjoy your property.